Hello and welcome to another video of historical history. My name is Jake and today we are going to be talking about a system of law unlike any other throughout the world. This is about the system of Kapu in the island of Hawaii. Now of course this didn't happen today, and this isn't the system of law that is in place today in Hawaii. This is indeed hundreds of years ago, back in the 16 and 1700s. Now today, you may think that Hawaii is a place of sandy beaches, towering waterfalls, fancy resorts, and the like. And today Hawaii has many of these things, and also much more. But in the olden days, hundreds of years ago, Hawaii was much different. Yes, there still were sandy beaches and towering waterfalls, but there were very few tourists, and there were no fancy resorts. Hawaii was utter paradise. Hawaii was once a royalty, and the royalty had very specific rules for what one could do and what one could not do. And this was all based through the Hawaiian religious system, consisting of many gods and goddesses that ruled the land, they believed. And something that the chiefs of Hawaii came up with was something called Kapu, which in English means taboo. However, if one did any of the following things, they would be brutally punished, either through being clubbed, stoned, and slaughtered in some other sort of way. For example, in the system of law, women could not eat pork or bananas. If they do, they would be executed. Also, if one walked in the shadow of a chief, they would be executed. Or, if a person ate a certain type of fish in a certain month that was forbidden, they would be executed. If somebody walked at a higher place than the chief and looked down upon the chief, they would be executed. If someone touched the chief's fingernails or hair, they would be executed. If men and women ate together, they would both be executed. Now this may seem overly strict for you, but in those times, hundreds of years ago, in many other cultures, the system of law was much similar. However, there was one way somebody could get out of being executed if they broke one of these laws. And that is to make it to this sacred place, the Place of Refuge, or Pu'uhonua o Hanaunau. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now, in order for one to make it to the Place of Refuge, they would have to escape their captors, run all the way to a certain part on the island of Hawaii, swim or row across Hanaunau Bay, and make it to the sacred Place of Refuge. Once there, they would be waiting for a few days before a priest would absolve them from their crimes. Then they could just go about their day like nothing ever happened. But in reality, they escaped death. And this was a totally legal way to escape death, and it was like they never broke the law ever. Of course, not everybody made it to the Place of Refuge, and many were executed while on their way, even if they came so close to making it to the Place of Refuge. Now, of course, their crime could have just been to walk in the shadow of the chief, but of course that was illegal then. Now you may be wondering what happened to Kapu law. And what really happened wasn't that the US annexed Hawaii and the law was done, or that foreigners came in and took over the land. Instead, people came to doubt the system of Kapu. Foreigners would come over to trade, and even if they broke one of the laws, nothing would really happen to the land, and everybody would be fine. The gods were not coming to punish the people or the land for what they had done. And Hawaiians became very skeptical of this. However, in the early 1800s, they didn't dare to disobey King Kamehameha, the very powerful chief of Hawaii. He controlled all of the islands and was one of the most powerful leaders at the time. So the people kept quiet about what they really thought. until 1819 when King Kamehameha died. Now his son Liholiho took over, but he wasn't as powerful as the King Kamehameha. Now King Kamehameha's widow and mother were pushing for the end of the Kapu system. They were tired of the sacrifices that women had to make. The system of Kapu was much harder on women than men, and there were many laws that forbid women from doing things such as the pork and banana rule. So they convinced Liholiho, who was the new king, to abolish the system of Kapu. Now, this was easier said than done, because what ended up happening is a few folks were not that happy with the end of the system. Now, one of these was, of course, a chief. Now, chiefs had many special privileges throughout the system of Kapu, and they basically were almost godlike, since nobody could step in their shadow, and the chiefs really had a lot of power. One of these chiefs was Kekuaokalani. Now, Chief Kekuaokalani did not want the system of Kapu to end. So he decided with his wife and a few hundred men to stage a rebellion to keep the system alive. So they decided to meet at Ku'amo'o to stage a rebellion. And they gathered there the few hundred men of forces and the chief to protest the end of Kapu. However, Liholiho's men were there as well, and they overwhelmed Kekuaokalani and his men. And Kekuaokalani was killed, and the system of Kapu was over once and for all. And what they ended up doing was throwing a huge feast, where men and women ate together. Women ate pork and bananas. They basically broke every law of Kapu. If the system had still been around, hundreds and thousands of people would be killed by execution. But of course, the system of Kapu law was over, and it became a mark of history. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you are interested in seeing more videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button so you can be notified when there is a new video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.